Two people supported each other as they slowly climbed the stairs, one drunk, the other steady. The three girls were supposed to share a room. Originally, it was Nan Wei's, but she had stepped out to give Su Chong a place to sleep alone. Wang Yuan, already tipsy, could only be helped by one person. Nan Wei, who was slumped in a chair, had clearly had too much to drink. Her cheeks flushed, her eyes glazed. Lin Qin walked over and lightly tapped her face. Nan Wei stirred, blinking slowly as she looked around. Huh, everyone's back already. Yes, Lin Qin replied. You should get some sleep. Oh, okay. She tried to rise, swaying as she stood. Seeing she could move on her own, Lin Qin didn't offer more help. Instead, he walked off to the bathroom for a quick rinse. When he came out, the living room was quiet. Su Chong lay passed out on the sofa. Lin Qin retrieved a blanket from storage and gently covered Su Chong, then turned off the lights downstairs. Only a faint night light remained on. He quietly headed upstairs and returned to his room. The hallway was dim, illuminated only by the soft glow of another night light. As he opened his bedroom door and stepped in, he was met with a strange sight. Something small was curled up in the center of his bed. He approached, reached out, and his hand touched warm, soft skin. Startled, he immediately stepped back. Click! The room's chandelier flicked on. And there, sprawled on his bed, was Nan Wei. Drunk. Relieved it wasn't anything worse, Lin Qin exhaled slowly. She must have stumbled into the wrong room. He went over and lightly patted her cheek. Nan Wei, wake up. You're in the wrong bed. Nan Wei stirred, her eyes half open and foggy. She slowly sat up, looked around in confusion, then rubbed her temples. Ah, sorry. Wrong room. She tried to stand, but her legs buckled, and she collapsed. Lin Qin instinctively reached out to catch her, but they both fell together, crashing awkwardly onto the floor. His hands hit the cold tiles, and his face landed squarely against her chest. There was silence. Nan Wei's dazed eyes slowly focused, the alcohol-induced haze lifting. Lin Qin quickly moved to pull away, but in the process his hand had accidentally yanked her shirt, snapping off 2 buttons and exposing her shoulder. He froze. Nan Wei's flushed face turned an even deeper red. Whether it was from alcohol, embarrassment, or something else, it was hard to say. Then, unexpectedly, she reached up and grabbed the collar of Lin Qin's shirt, pulling him back toward her. Her lips met his. Lin Qin stiffened in shock, but Nan Wei didn't hold back. The kiss was deep, fiery, driven by a mix of emotion and drunken impulse. And Lin Qin, under the haze of drink and temptation, didn't resist. The other girls in the next room slept soundly, unaware of what was unfolding. Su Chong downstairs was out cold, more pig than person in his drunken state. The sky began to lighten before they finally collapsed into sleep. 10:30 a.m. Zhang Shui and Wang Yuan were the first to stir, groggy from last night's drinks. After freshening up, they began tidying the leftovers scattered across the table. Su Chong groaned from the couch, stretching with a wince. Wang Yuan chuckled, teasing him. What did you do last night to make your back hurt so much? Go away, Su Chong grumbled. You must have dumped me here while I was drunk. My back's killing me from sleeping like this. Zhang Shui laughed. Sounds like you pulled something. You'll get used to it. Then she asked, what do you want for breakfast? Anything's fine. Why don't you check what Lin Qin wants to? Su Chong replied, rubbing his temples. Wait, where's Nan Wei? The two girls blinked. Nan Wei. They looked at each other, puzzled. Neither had noticed she wasn't in the room when they woke up. Their beds had been joined into one large one by pushing 2 frames together. Enough space for all 3 to sleep without bumping into each other. I thought she was still asleep, Zhang Shui said. Wanted to go check. Su Chong waved it off. Let her sleep it off. No need to wake her. We all drank. They nodded in agreement. Using the leftover ingredients, they began throwing together a hearty stew. By now, it was nearly noon. Upstairs, the silence was broken by soft groaning sounds. Inside Lin Qin's room, the two were still tangled together beneath a blanket, skin bare, eyes weary. Nan Wei had already woken and was sitting up with the blanket wrapped tightly around her. She avoided looking at Lin Qin. He stared at her quietly. Nan Wei's pale skin glowed with a faint blush. Whether from embarrassment or last night's passion, it was unclear. I drank too much last night, she muttered, voice low. Lin Qin chuckled, reaching over to take her hand. He rolled over on top of her, eyes glinting mischievously. You tasted it. Now you can't go back, he teased. Nan Wei protested, blushing furiously. Don't. They're all downstairs. What's there to be afraid of? You were so bold just now. He leaned closer and whispered something in her ear. Instantly, Nan Wei's face turned crimson, like a cooked prawn. 12:30 p.m. Footsteps approached in the hallway. Nan Wei immediately quieted down, holding her breath under the blanket. Wang Yuan walked past Lin Qin's door, pausing for a moment. Then she turned into the girls' room, checking the beds. The covers were slightly raised. Nan Wei must have slept on the far end and was still tucked in. No wonder she hadn't noticed Nan Wei missing earlier. Satisfied, she left the room and closed the door gently. She probably drank too much, Wang Yuan muttered. Let's wake her later. Stopping by Lin Qin's room, she knocked lightly. Lin Qin, lunch is ready. If you're awake, come down and eat. Lin Qin, still sweaty and disheveled, quickly responded, I just woke up. I'll be down in a minute. Wang Yuan didn't think much of it and turned to head downstairs. As her footsteps faded into the distance, Nan Wei let out a breath of relief, her tense shoulders relaxing. About half an hour later, Nan Wei quietly cracked open Lin Qin's bedroom door, peeking out to confirm the second-floor living room was empty. Then, she tiptoed back to her own room and got dressed. Lin Qin, now dressed as well, joined the others just as Nan Wei walked in, cheeks still tinged pink. Zhang Shui glanced at her curiously. Sister Nan Wei, are you feeling hot? Your face is super red. At those words, all eyes turned to Nan Wei. Wang Yuan added, even your neck is flushed. Is the AC not working again? It's set to the same temperature as yesterday. Nan Wei. Lin Qin smirked slightly but stayed quiet. Lunch was awkward for Nan Wei. The others seemed unaware of what had transpired, but the unspoken tension made her restless. No one brought it up, yet the silence at the table felt heavier than usual. Suddenly, Lin Qin's phone vibrated in his pocket. He pulled it out and checked the surveillance feed. What he saw was strange. Zombies on the outskirts of the monitored area were moving away in large numbers, seemingly called by some unseen force. His surveillance system only covered the vicinity around the villa, so anything beyond that was out of sight. Still, the migration was unexpected. But this was good news. If the zombies were dispersing, it was the perfect time to fortify the villa's defenses. Without imminent threat, they could upgrade the electric fencing. Lin Qin stepped out into the yard and began replicating sections of the electric grid using his ability. He created enough to pile up in the front yard, then carried several out to line the perimeter of the property. It didn't take him more than 10 minutes to generate a small mountain of fencing material. These electric grids weren't dangerous to humans and were strategically placed so that no one walking the outside trail would trip on them. Just then, Lin Qin noticed yellow smoke rising not far from the villa. An airdrop. He frowned slightly. Yellow smoke indicated weapon supplies, but he wasn't interested in whatever outdated or damaged gear the military had dumped. They were probably clearing excess inventory, useless weapon shells, or ammo with little practical use. Still, it was odd. It had been 2 days without any visible airdrops or survivors in the vicinity. Could there be other people nearby? His curiosity stirred. Regardless, Lin Qin returned inside after arranging the materials outside. Back in the villa, the others had already cleaned up the dining table and were beginning their post-lunch workouts. Lin Qin was pleased by their discipline, but right now, setting up the defense took priority. Su Chang. Lin Qin called up the stairs, come help me set up the grid outside. Su Chang's voice came from the second floor, confused. What grid? I haven't even been outside yet. Nonetheless, he came down. The others, Wang Yuan, Zhang Shui, and Nan Wei, followed, surprised to see the yard filled with fencing materials. Where did all this come from? Zhang Shui asked, shocked. You were only out for a few minutes. We'll start installing these around the villa, Lin Qin said, already handing out tools. Everything's ready. Su Chong scanned the pile of power grids, clearly stunned. They stretched all the way to the outer trail. Even with Lin Qin's known skills, this seemed excessive. Where did he get all this so fast? And why wasn't he using any mechanical assistance? Su Chong said nothing but silently picked up the tools and got to work. The fencing wires were thin and strong, designed to be installed in 3 layers, with iron anchors that attached to the villa's existing iron walls. The setup was straightforward, but fixing the anchors required precision. Everyone got to work, wrapping, securing, and stretching the grid across the perimeter. As they worked, Su Chong kept glancing at the yellow smoke in the distance. Lin Qin must have seen it too. Why wasn't he going after it? They only had a few functional guns, most of which were with the girls. Su Chong himself had only a bow, which felt practically useless against stronger zombies. Still, Lin Qin didn't mention the airdrop once. Su Chong turned his focus back to the fencing. Once everything was in place, the group rerouted power lines to energize the perimeter. It wasn't a lethal voltage, but enough to deter intruders, human or otherwise. With the grid complete, they drastically improved their defense. No longer would they have to worry about survivors sneaking in or zombies breaching the wall. Satisfied, everyone wiped sweat from their foreheads and stepped back to admire the work. But as they began packing up, someone noticed something off. Wait, where's Su Chong? Lin Qin scanned the area. It's almost 4 p.m. He hasn't eaten. They had only had one meal that day, lunch, and everyone had worked nonstop since. He was probably exhausted and starving. The others wanted to head inside and cool down, but Su Chong was missing. No zombies had appeared during the entire process. No other survivors had shown up either. Still, the absence was concerning. Lin Qin glanced at Nan Wei. She turned to Wang Yuan. Where's Su Chong? Out of everyone, Wang Yuan talked to him the most. If anyone knew where he went, it'd be her. But Wang Yuan just looked down and stayed silent.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
Nan Wei took a step forward and said, You concealing it for him is to harm him. Did you forget the situation yesterday? It's not safe outside. Wang Yuan squeezed his fist and hesitated. He saw the airdrop and said he was going to find any weapons. How long have you been? It's half an hour, right? Nan Wei. Lin Qin frowned slightly. Isn't it the yellow smoke there? Wang Yinsen nodded. First of all, the weapon of the army is very average. Secondly, seeing yellow smoke must be more than him. The zombie is definitely more than one person. This kid usually looks pretty clever. Why is he always speculative? Wang Yuan looked up and looked at Lin Qin, said, Otherwise, let's go out to find him. He has been out for so long, and there is no intercom. There is no way to contact at all. I am worried about the same situation as yesterday. What if you meet a zombie? Nan Wei hates iron. Now knowing scared? Why don't you say when he leaves? Now it has passed half an hour now. No one knows where he went. Isn't it over the airdrop box? The smoke of the airdrop box is gone. You know what direction is it? Wang Yuan, what should I do? We must never find it. Lin Qin stood aside and sighed. Go back. Life and death are rich and rich. No one can help him. Go out now. The zombies over there are gathered over there. They will not meet each other and come back safely like the last time. Lin Qin returned to the room, and Zhang Shui followed. Nan Wei hesitated and felt that he didn't dare to act without authorization, and eventually followed. Wang Yuan stood still in place and was anxious at the same time, and there was no other way. She looked at the distance and finally followed. The temperature inside the house is much cooler than the outside. After a busy afternoon, everyone was too tired. Zhang Shui held the ice cream one by one. It was her most heartless and heartless. Wang Yuan ate ice cream. If she had been the past, she would be very happy. But now, she just feels terrified. An hour later, Su Chang's figure was still disappeared. Everyone in the room, like nothing happened, returned to their own room. The stand, a lone game and a mobile phone played a great role at this time and sent a boring time. Lin Qin returned to his bedroom and turned on the computer. The network is not smooth now. Naturally, there's no way to play the network of networking. But Stand alone can still play. But with the disappearance of time, Lin Qin stopped. At 5 o'clock, Su Chong still didn't return. It seems that it is more fierce. Outside the door, Wang Yuan banged Lin Qin's door. What's wrong? It's me, Wang Yuan. Lin Qin opened the door of the bedroom, looked at her, and said directly, You want to go out to find Su Chong? I won't stop, but when you go out, you don't have to come back. Wang Yuan, Lin Qin is not a good person, but it is by no means a bad person. As when they said to join the team, after careful consideration, Lin Qin nodded and agreed. But they died by themselves, and Lin Qin had no other way. Such a person who does not obey management, people without team consciousness. Morning and evening will hurt the entire team. Of course, Su Chong may be a kind at first, want to do something for the team. But Lin Qin didn't think he had no selfishness. Wang Yuan was blocked by Lin Qin at once. She originally thought that Lin Qin should not watch Su Chong, who did not come back and did nothing. She came over and said a few more words, just persuaded. At present, Lin Qin's response directly made her original thought of good words. Wang Yuan is not walking or not. Why, there are words. Lin Qin looked at Wang Yuan's expression and deliberately. Wang Yuan shook his head, nodded again, and then turned and walked out. Nanwei and Zhang Shui stood at the stairs and looked at her. After seeing Wang Yuan ate, he shook his head helplessly. Zhang Shui said directly, You and Su Chong are friends, worrying that he can understand. But you have to distinguish it a little bit. Lin Qin is the one we should be obedient. Without him, there will be no our current days. After Zhang Shui said, he continued to return to the bedroom with his ice cream. Looking at the big beds and the 2 beds in the room, shook his head. When Zhang Shui's figure disappeared, Nanwei said, Let's wait. Lin Qin in the room got up and came to the floor to ceiling window. Soon after, the sky outside was going to be dark. The zombies in the monitoring are not signs. The streets in the distance suddenly rose. Lin Qin stood at the window and looked at the past. I don't know what the situation there is, and someone sets fire. In the depths of the thick smoke, there seems to be something to roll inside, and it even slowly expands out. Lin Qin looked at it carefully and did not see the things in the thick smoke like a helicopter, but the distance was not very close to it quickly disappeared. And in that direction, why is it a bit like a hospital? Lin Qin couldn't help thinking, and his long, awaited memory gradually woke up. He heard in his last life that someone got a pharmacy in a hospital in a community. I don't know what component is, but the user's ability will be enhanced in a short time. But no one has seen this thing at all. If it wasn't for a fire that burned most of the hospital's emergency department, the things hidden in the inside would not be found. However, Lin Qin couldn't confirm whether it was the fire, nor could it confirm whether it was this place, and it was not possible to confirm whether the path of obtaining the pharmaceutical was a hospital. After all, it is rumored by others, and the specific ways of obtaining must be water. And those who get the medicine, what is Wix? Mori. Although no one is clearly obtained in him, it is indeed a hospital that rumors. But today, I suddenly saw the fire in the distance, and the memory in his mind suddenly thought of this. If so for Lin Qin, it is undoubtedly an opportunity. Lin Qin pushed the door of the room and watched the 2 people at the entrance of the stairs didn't know what they were saying. Yu reading www.yuyukangshu.net. Of course, he has no time to control so much. Open the door and walk out, and the 2 women behind them immediately followed. Shimen is the door to the closest to the lively street. The streets were quiet, and even zombies could not be seen. But the thick smoke in the distance was rolling, very eye-catching. Nanwei and Wang Yuan looked at this scene and could not help but a little dumbfounded. What's the situation? Looking at it seems to be the direction of the hospital. The 2 didn't know why Lin Qin suddenly went out. But such a hurry is definitely serious. And Su Chong, I don't know if it is related to him. However, Lin Qin did not leave the villa area immediately, but just watched the direction of the fire in the distance, a little fascinating. Nanwei came and watched the direction of King Lin Qin. What's the name of the hospital over there? Nanwei thought for a moment and then said, Inxiang Community Hospital. Inxiang? It seems to be in line with the one in memory. Lin Qin couldn't help but speed up the pace, and at the same time notified Zhang Shui to keep it home. The street is very quiet. There are corpses accumulated everywhere, very disgusting. But in addition, it is like an empty city, and even personal shadows cannot be seen. Today's streets are not like before. Even if someone comes out to find food, it will not expose their position. Lin Qin was unobstructed all the way and walked on the road for almost 10 minutes. I don't know how much time I want to waste all the way. Lin Qin was looking down and then ran to the front along various parking vehicles on the side of the road. When Nan Wei and Wang Yuran rushed over, a big Benai stopped in front of them. Lin Qin had started the car and waited for them to get in the car. Too late to think about it, they got on the car and sat. The car walked for more than 10 minutes before it was near the light of Huawang. Here, zombies gathered with survivors. I don't know if it was a sudden fire in the hospital, and many survivors hiding nearby ran out to escape. Many people wear sick clothes, white coats, nurses, and zombies constantly eating humans who escape around. Wang Yuran stayed in the car and looked at the tragic situation outside. Nan Wei looked at the situation outside. How can there be so many more people suddenly? After the outbreak of the zombies, there were 2 staff riots in total. One is that the food is exhausted, and many people can no longer avoid it on the streets to grab supplies. Once again, it is rescue. However, after the rescue mission was stopped, a large number of airdrops were put in. The survivors were also divided into 2 waves. A wave of going to the evacuation point by himself or by the pre-rescue team. On the other hand, various reasons stayed in the place where they thought it was safe to avoid, waiting for the launch of the materials to fight. There are still no survivors to go to the evacuation point here. At present, the hospital is not a food venue. Why are there so many people here? Lin Qin drove the car and passed through the chaotic crowd. When did the hospital have less people? And this is a community hospital. Most of the elderly, there are not a few people trapped here. In the past, every time I went to the hospital, whether it was morning or afternoon, weekend or working day, the people in the hospital are all overcrowded. Listing a team and registering the team is always long. Even if it is hospitalized, some have to wait for the bed. Of course, whether it is a community hospital or a regular large hospital, people are full of people. It is conceivable that there are not a few people in the hospital. If it weren't for this fire, these people would not leave the hospital. After all, there's zombies outside. But in contrast, another hospital is not so good. The zombies just broke out, and some zombies sent to the hospital were transformed into bite in the city hospital. It is estimated that all kinds of zombies over there. Community hospitals are not large, and medical facilities are relatively small, so the ambulances at that time were sent to more intact city center hospitals, such as medical equipment. Suddenly, a zombie hit directly on the windshield in front of Lin Qin, and the teeth dancing the claws wanted to break the 3 people in the glass and bite. Then, on the door of the rear seat, a blooded palm patted on the window. Wang Yuran looked sideways, seeing a rotten zombie lying on the glass. He kept scratching and trying to get in. He gave Wang Ran a crit. However, Lin Qin's car kept driving, and the zombies of the rear window did not let go. Zombies lying in front of the windshield are also persistent. Lin Qin fought the steering wheel and threw the 2 zombies. Then he rolled directly from the zombie. However, Lin Qin's car was really eye-catching. Many survivors saw, desperately patting his window for help. But soon, the zombies surrounded were bitten by the neck. Lin Qin stepping on the throttle and a steering wheel, which was away from this place. There are not a few people who have escaped from the hospital. There are the paradise of zombies around. Until away from here, Lin Qin turned off. Wang Yuran behind the seat was so scared. Passing the car, Lin Qin walked down. The situation over there is too complicated. The car will only attract zombies in the past. The situation here looks more complicated than what I think. Nan Wei looked at Lin Qin and got out of the car nervously. I will go with you. If there is any situation on this road, there is a good response. Wang Yuran, who was sitting in the back seat, nodded the same. Yeah, there are so many zombies in the hospital, and the situation is much more complicated than what we think. You are alone, Sister Nanwei is not assured. Lin Qin didn't say much about anything and left here. If it is really here, maybe you can really find it. If it can be reinforced, the current situation will be solved. The fire in the distance is still spreading. The thick smoke in the distance gradually turned into the sky, and the screams of someone could be heard looming. Lin Qin continued to go forward and approached. However, someone was running from the center of the street. Even if he knocked down, he crawled up in a panic and continued to run away. The zombies gradually appeared, but there was still a little distance from the center that was just chaotic. Lin Qin walked along the shop on the street. If there was something wrong, he planned to hide directly. Nowadays, you don't get what you want. Naturally, don't conflict with the zombies. Mainly, it is a bit troublesome and delaying its progress. As I approached, Yu read the book www.yikinsho. Net Lin Qin found that several survivors in the distance ran over and behind. Behind them, follow a lot of zombies. Lin Qin simply hid in the shop along the street and leaned on the wall behind. A survivor escaped with climbing, avoiding the zombies chasing behind him, who knew that as soon as he came in, a gun directly reached his back. The surroundings are particularly quiet and can hear the roar of the zombies outside. But he didn't dare to move at all. When the zombies outside were scattered, Lin Qin said, "What happened over there?" The man trembled and said, "It's on fire, there are, and mutant zombies." "Good man, there is nothing valuable on me and my life." Wang Yuan stepped forward and asked nervously, "Have you ever seen a tall man, wearing a white short sleeve with a rice mouse? He not fat, a bit thin?" "No, I haven't seen it. The mutant zombie over there is very powerful. I fled all the way. I didn't pay attention to the person you said." "Good man, forgiveness. I am an ordinary person who wants to live." "What's the matter with that fire?" Lin Qin continued to ask. "I don't know, there should be someone put it, burn a lot of zombies, a lot. If you're here to find someone, you can find it in it. Many people over there are trapped over there. You can find it everywhere. Maybe the person you're looking for is there." Lynch Live. There were a lot of zombies roar on the streets outside. As for the voice of people, there was no. Also, there are zombies. How can there be sound? Lin Qi nodded. He did not come to Su Chong deliberately, but watching Wang Yuan's best at finding Su Chong. I couldn't help but say, "We are divided into two roads, and you two go to Su Chong." Nan Wei stunned, and Wang Yin, aside, couldn't help whispering, "Did you come out? Aren't you looking for Su Chong?" They came out all the way and came here again. The direction of a yellow smoke appeared here, and she thought she came out to find Su Chong. Isn't this for Su Chong now? Nan Wei is not like Wang Yuan. She has been with Lin Qin for a long time, has experienced more, and considers it comprehensive. Lin Qin seemed to be able to support them. "No, you're not safe alone." Lin Qin looked up at them. "What is not safe? Your friend may have flew to Su Chong over the heart. Forget it. Don't delay me here. The two of you go to him, find it, and go back after finding it. Look back and contact." Nanwei still wants to say something. Lin Qin said directly, "Let's go. Don't delay my major things here. I don't want to wait a minute to take care of you." Lin Qin waved his hand. Nanwei hesitated for a moment, so he had to leave here with his words. At this time, only Lin Qin and this unknown passersby were left in the room. The back of the head was against the gun, and the man did not dare to move. Just watching the two women disappeared here, he was scared. "Good man, can you let me go?" Lin Qin glanced at him and then put down the gun in his hand. As long as he is not malicious to himself, Lin Qin does not want to be a murderer. However, the man took 2 steps forward, and while Lin Qin didn't pay attention, he killed it with a knife. His gun was really jealous. Lin Qin did not hesitate, shot and killed the past. A shot, the man fell directly to the ground. Lin Qin didn't look at him, but just looked at the street through the transparent glass. The situation outside at this time is much better. There are many scattered crowds, and zombies have increased a lot. The sky outside was gradually dark. The fire of the hospital continued, and it didn't seem to stop. Lin Qin looked at it for a while, and waited until the street could not see the zombies, and walked out. Regardless of the hospital situation, let's go and talk about it first. Otherwise, wait for burn cleaning and go in and find. In this way, Lin Qin walked in the wall along the street. Fortunately, there were parking spaces on the side of the road, and a lot of cars were parked. Can perfectly block Lin Qin's approaching figure. Avoiding the crowd, Lin Qin was smooth. Come to the wall outside the hospital and turned directly in. The fire of the emergency department is still spreading. Fortunately, the emergency building is a separate building with a long corridor in the middle. Lin Qin watched the empty piece of emptiness, a little confused. Mainly, there is nowhere to start. The fire of the emergency building is extremely large, and there is no return in and out of entering and exit. In other buildings, all kinds of destruction marks are obvious, but there are no zombies in the hospital, nor other survivors. The zombies have long been attracted to the streets outside the hospital. Occasionally, a few orders are also easily resolved by Lin Qin. No zombies notice him at all now. He just heard it, and he did not see himself. Where to go this circle? During Lin Qin's god, a man in a white coat in the distance was coming quickly. Lin Qin raised his gun aimed. The man who ran over there stopped his pace and raised his hands and shouted, "Brother, I'm not a zombie. I am a doctor at this hospital." Lin Qin did not put down the gun in his hand, but fired. The man was startled, but the bullet passed through him and hit the zombies behind him. Men also hurried over and panting. He looked at Lin Qin, and his face was all sweaty because he just ran. "Thank you, brother." Lin Qin didn't speak, but just saw the suitcase he held in his hand. The man didn't stay. After thanking, he looked around and looked out. Lin Qin saw his own walkie-talkie. "Do you have a walkie-talkie?" And at this time, the horses behind the hospital are rushing to chase the man. Everyone saw Lin Qin's meeting with the target personnel and couldn't help but be vigilantly hidden behind the building, and he couldn't act lightly. "Captain, this person who should not be the connection. No matter who he is, who's he? He tried to control this person. Don't let go of the person running away." Good. The team is divided into two waves. One team of people turn out of the courtyard wall and continue to chase the people who ran out with the suitcase, and the other team of people carefully observed Lin Qin. Just hesitated for a moment. Lin Qin followed immediately. I saw the man look around to make sure that when there was no one around him, he immediately took off the white coat on his body, discarded it at will, and ran towards a gossip. Lin Qin was fast and chased up. The deep alley was extremely silent, and Lin Qin couldn't help stopping. I always feel that there is a tail behind him, always following him. Lin Qin did not chase. Yu reading www.yuyukangshu.net reassured wanting to solve the trouble behind him. The alley was quiet. Lin Qin walked slowly, and at the same time observed the surroundings. A few people behind followed them, then approached quietly. Lin Qin didn't look back, but his eyes sneaked in the past. I didn't find anything. Seeing that there was a crossroads in front, the person behind him kept up. Lin Qin couldn't judge what the other party was, but he could only find a way to get out first. Seeing the closer and closer to the intersection in front, Lin Qin stopped and turned sharply. The alley was quiet, except for the corpse of the zombies. But he turned his head and ran quickly. Seeing the situation behind him, he immediately kept up. However, there was a corner of the crossroad, and Lin Qin's figure was not seen on the street. "Brother Lin, let the boy run away. The group has researched such a total. This guy, no wonder dared to steal it. It turned out to be a gang." The three stopped at the corner of the street and stopped. One of the men, fucking a less fluent Chinese, or panic, contact the progress over there to see if the reinforcement does not move. The man named Lin was wearing military green clothes and a black vest. There's a black face on their faces with a biopharmaceutical. Shoes are characteristic leather boots. This dress is like the costumes of those terrorists seen in TV. "Brother Lin, Wix, will it have been injected?" "Impossible. The side effects of the reinforcement agent are so large. If there is no drug support to weaken the side effects, he dare not inject it at will. Otherwise, how could he run into the hospital? Contact the other side first. See what's the situation, go." The captain of the speaker is Lin Sheng, the deputy captain in this team. He looked at the unmanned street in the distance and reached out. Running forward again, he left here. Lin Qin hit on the tree, and did not worry after the group of people left. The person who had just met in the hospital turned out to be Wax. He is the first person. However, Lin Qin had to be interested in the 4 big words of these people in these population and the 4 words behind them. It looks like there is a company behind Wax. Reinforcement is not a coincidence. He jumped from the tree and immediately followed the few people over there. Only with these people can we find Wax. The sky gradually darkened, and the light around was not very good. At this time, it was almost dusk, and the darkness was very fast. Lin Qin kept a distance not far away. Along the way, it followed a deserted land to be built. The land to be built in the city is surrounded by low fences. The soil piles in it are one by one, which is directly covered with weeds. I have to say that this is indeed a good place to hide. Lin Qin followed them through them, but there were many weeds around. He had to be careful, otherwise it would be easy to discover his traces in front of him when he stepped on the dead branches. This group of people walked through and soon facilitated teammates to gather together. Lin Qin pulled away a gap in the weeds and secretly aimed. There are 5 people in total. The middle should be Wax. I saw 2 people holding the escape Wax and fell to the ground, surrounded by a team of people. Wax lying in the middle did not have any room for escape. I could only watch someone take away the password box in his hand. Wax, the things in this password box did not belong to you. And what's the use of a semi-finished product? If you know the phase, take it out of those research records you destroyed. We can keep up with the above, and we can leave your life. Everyone is a colleague, and I won't do so well. Wax on the ground was injured, and even it was a bit strenuous. He shook his lips and said, "No backup. This kind of harmful thing, you even delusional experiments on people. Now there's zombies outside the outside. You also want to study zombies and make them a weapon? Lunatic. These zombies are lively and dead, and there is no pain in itself. You want to take this half-finished product to inject on the zombie and find someone to study, not what a lunatic is." Wax was lying on the ground, and his voice was weak. "I've put garlic here less. Didn't you always contribute to the early research investment? Why have you found it now? What's more, these zombies have been on the road of stronger, and we just studied his strong trend. Only developed such a semi-finished product. Now the research institute is gone, but you can't take things away." Lin Qin snorted, watching Wax, who had lost half of his life on the ground, was not afraid. He looked at the other people behind him, and his eyes indicated. Immediately, the crowd began to punch and kick on the ground. Lin Qin squatted on one side and watched the beaten Wax said, "Is it really true?" "No, it's all destroyed." Lin Qin was a little surprised, but Wax was hanging at this time, and he would not deceive them. He waved his hand and stopped everyone. "Look, you really don't." Lin Qin kicked up, and Wax rolled out of control. "Walk." Lin Qin got up and left in another direction. Today, Wax are all injured and have the ability to walk. Lying here will not be discovered, and it can't take long at all. The bloody taste will attract the zombies. At that time, there is no corpse. It is not necessary to waste the only weapons and bullets in their hands. When everyone left, Lin Qin came out of the bee behind weeds. There should be no enhanced potion in the password box taken by this group of people. Otherwise, there will be no later Wax. However, I did not expect that the only half of Wax left with the only half, leaving the reinforcement. But it should be soon, and this group of people will find that the reinforcement is not inside and goes back. To get a reinforcement agent, Lin Qin must get it before the group of people coming. The surrounding was dim, and Lin Qin couldn't see clearly in front of Wax's standing. He squatted down and turned on the flashlight function of his phone. Entering the eyes, on the face of Wax's face, all of them were sticky blood. This is not light. Where is your enhancer? The strong light was dazzling, and Wax opened a gap and closed his eyes. You reading book www.uucountshoot.net. What are you talking about? Lin Qin laughed and said again, "Don't pretend. Didn't you encounter me in the hospital today? I heard what those people just said, but how could you bring you with this kind of thing? Let me guess, should be still in the hospital?" Wax coughed. He was not beaten lightly, and the blood in the throat reversed. It can be said that there is no bone that is not painful. Little brother, this thing is not a good thing with you. I know, But I remember that this reinforcement seemed to cooperate with something to come. You go to the hospital. What kind of normal hospital can help you solve this effect? I can't think of it, unless there is any medicine. Lin Qin's words made Wax, who wanted to pretend to be dead. He slowly opened his eyes and looked up and down at Lin Qin. Take a deep breath. Are you from him? He was breathless, and he didn't speak very much. How can people who do not know how to know so many details? Wicker naturally believes that Lin Qin is their person. Lin Qin shook his head no. Lin Qin put his mobile phone on the piles on one side, and then pulled out a wheelchair from a space. Watch Lin Qin's, as if he was a trick, and the wheelchair suddenly took out was shocked. He put Wax on a wheelchair, and then pushed the weeds to hid behind the tall land on the other side. Then he returned to the weeds, raised the seal of the wheelchair into another direction, and sprinkled some red ink, and then ran back. Wax was still in a wheelchair, and he didn't understand why Lin Qin saved him. Seeing a few people who went back to see Wax's corpse on the ground was anxious. He kicked the safe out. Damn, Wax is playing with us. Find it for me. He was so seriously injured, not far away. Lin Sheng looked at the traces of dragging on the ground, greeted everyone, and ran out of the blood on the ground again. After no one was, Lin Qin turned on the flashlight on the phone again. Your current situation, it should not be used in that reinforcement. If it wasn't for me, you might die directly in their hands. I can send you to the hospital so that you can save yourself, but the problem is that I want this reinforcement agent. Wicker wanted to look at Lin Qin, and could not stand such a strong light, and closed his eyes. Little brother, this thing has not been tested in the human body, and the side effects are great. You should not be better. I'm not a word that deliberately does not tell you, but in fact it is really not good. No one knows what effect will happen after use, and whether the body is well. What's more, you just appeared in this wheelchair. It doesn't seem to need my reinforcement agent. He just changed a wheelchair out of thin air, or he couldn't move now. He was absolutely frightened and ran away. This is what people can do. It is simply not in line with common sense. Magic. Lin Qin didn't speak. He was just lucky and suddenly got a copy of copying and also attached a storage space. Of course, the role of the early stage is indeed very large and very practical. But now, the ability to replicate is basically not a big role. Everything is copied in the early stage. Now, in addition to copying and eating, there are more bullets and grenades. And he's an ordinary person. If he wants to become stronger, it is not difficult to understand. It's all things that change the trick. If you have a good time, you can stand on the foundation. I want to live. It should not be difficult to understand. Wax coughing, and some blood spit out his mouth. He looked at Lin Qin and said slowly, "What about things? There are side effects I have told you, but if you still want, come here." Lin Qin looked up and down with Wix to ensure that he had no ability to resist, leaning on the past. After getting the position, Lin Qin couldn't help laughing. The address is really rare to the rumors in previous lives. Lin Qin pushed the wheelchair and took Wax to another direction. As you get closer to the emergency room, the fire over there is bright, and the surroundings are clearly clear. A heat wave rushed with a strong burnt smell. Fortunately, the personnel of the day rushed out of the hospital and attracted all the zombies nearby. It would be empty here, which was very safe. Lin Qin took him to the outpatient clinic of the hospital. The fire burning at this time next to the emergency department was much smaller, but there were still many flames. Wax pointed to a direction. East, west, I hidden on the back of the air conditioning machine on the first floor. I need the gauze iodine scissors in the pharmacy, taking anti-inflammatory drugs, saline, hemostatic drugs in the inside and outside. Lin Qin walked in the direction of Wax's pointing. There are many air conditioners on the first floor, and they are hidden behind the flower bed. Most people will not play with the air conditioner. Lin Qin found the second air conditioner's machine along with Wix's guidance. Then I found it. There is a layer of internal packaging, which is hidden in the gap between the air conditioner and the wall. Here is located in the shade, and the sun cannot be exposed during the day. Open the box of the outer packaging, and the needle of a blue liquid inside appears in front of the eyes. Holding things, Lin Qin came back. then remove the things that Wax asked for. However, Lin Qin did not give him immediately. He still needed to know what medicine to suppress the side effects of this stuff. Wicks naturally know what Lin Qin wants to know. He paused. This reinforcement was originally used to study animals and strengthen their various labor skills. I have never tried it at all. After using it, what is difficult to say about the specific side effects? But you better find a warm place to stay. By the way, there is a manual in the potion. You can see it yourself. I don't need to lie to you. A warm place? Lin Qin couldn't help picking his eyebrows. Turn the box, and it really has something similar to manuscript. Wicks calls this instructions? Lin Qin looked at it. Indeed, there was some feedback on the experiment of the agent. Chill. Well, it's really a warm place. But how do you feel different for what he heard before? What's more, isn't he going to find medicine in this hospital? It's that simple. Find a warm place? Lin Qin is doubtful. Wax seemed to see his doubts, and he kept coughing and said, I didn't lie to you. There is no thing I want to find in the hospital. Of course, if you have spicy and warm things, it has a big difference. Of course, the amount of dosage will be outrageous. The important thing is to keep warm. Wax smiled bitterly, and his injuries were very fatal during this chaos. That thing is not known to him. Mainly cannot fall into the hands of that group. Otherwise, if they point their finger at those zombies, the world may be even more crazy. Now that he got something, Lin Qin was not a person who did not talk about credit and passed Wax's medicine. You can treat these medicines in appearance, but I can't treat you internal organs. Wax pulled his lips. I know, so I didn't embarrass you. Hold your things. Let's go quickly. This group of people is likely to come back. Wax was sitting on a wheelchair and squinting at Lin Qin. The emergency building next to it is still burning. From time to time, the heat wave came. Yu reading www.yuukongshu.net. Lin Qin collected the reinforcement agent, but he was not polite to him. Leave directly here. However, the front foot just left, and the back feet, and those people appeared on the street. Lin Qin had to hide first. The team ran over and found Wax in a wheelchair. After a while, Lin Qin saw that he was beaten again. Fortunately, even if I died, I did not say that it was taken away by myself. But the place where warm and more is not easy to find now. Lin Qin does not intend to go back. After all, what is the side effect is unclear. Find a safe place and wait. Lin Qin looked down and then looked at the emergency building next to the fire. It seems that only this is the warmest. It is not safe to stay here. However, the hospital has a spare power supply. The air conditioning heater can be used as long as the backup power supply is turned on. The entire hospital escaped from the emergency sudden fire. It should be safe. However, Lin Qin could not guarantee. Hesitating, Lin Qin looked nearby. Then I planned to enter the hospital. Lin Qin put on the night vision that replicated the special police officer, then bypassed the clinic and ran directly to the inpatient department behind. Fortunately, the lights of the lobby of the inpatient department are just bright. Back-up power is normal and starts normally. Lin Qin turned off the lights and tried to move forward. The lamp was lit in the hospital, and the goal was too obvious, so it was more appropriate to turn off the lights. There are all kinds of objects scattered, slippers and other objects in the corridor. It can be seen that these people run out of panic. But in addition, the corridor was unexpectedly clean. There are no traces of zombies, nor dirty bloodstains. Lin Qin went up the second floor smoothly. Lin Qin didn't run too far up the upper floor, but came to the second floor to randomly pick a ward to hide in it. The bedding in the ward was messy, and sports shoes and slippers were scattered underground. On the bedside table, there are some mineral water bottles and food plastic packaging bags that have been eaten. However, no one will return these things. It's useless. But no one here is the best for Lin Qin. He did not turn on the lights in the room, but turned on the small light in the bathroom. At least the light in the entire ward is not too dark. Lin Qin moved over the bedside cabinet in the ward. All of them arrived on the door, and then walked to the bathroom. The bathroom is not large, but there are plugs. Lin Qin took out the heater and the little sun from the space, and was ready to start baking. As for the blue enhanced medicinal solution, to be honest, he was a little nervous. Wax does not know what the specific Chinese herbal medicine can neutralize medicine. But this semi-finished product did bring a lot of interest and ability to Wax in the previous life. Persevere, you can succeed. Lin Qin held the potion and then began to copy. If you can survive yourself, then this potion is unique. In case it is really good, Lin Qin will consider whether to give his friends and his team. However, this matter needs to be discussed. The blue liquid was tied on the arm, and soon the injection was completed. In 10 seconds, Lin Qin did not respond. Instead, because the heater is not hot with the little sun, sweating all over his body. 30 seconds. Rapid heartbeat. Lin Qin reacted at this time. This thing, Wax said that he had been experimenting on animals. The dose is not set. He finished all this. In 40 seconds, Lin Qin began to feel cold. After 1 minute, Lin Qin felt like he was running naked in the Arctic. He couldn't help but take out the quilt from the storage space and start a copy of 10%, 2,240%. Finally, a thick layer was covered. The temperature of the little sun and the heater seemed to be able to satisfy his current state. A thick layer of frost on the eyebrows. Even the breath of exhaling became a burst of white mist. Damn, this Wix just said to find a warm place, but didn't say so cold. Wrapped so many quilts, he felt cold and careless. Gradually, Lin Qin fell asleep in the heavy quilt. I don't know how long it has been. A few sounds came from the door of the ward. When Lin Qin woke up confused, he saw a few people in special police costumes come in. The light of a flashlight on their shoulders was hit. Some dizzy, some are unrealistic. And it seems to be hearing. Number 3, find a survivor. Received, I stay, you continue to go in. Why is there a special police here? It shouldn't. He stood up and resisted. If these special police are the fantasies he sees, then it is a zombie. Naturally, it is impossible to wait for death. However, how did Lin Qin resist and stayed and looked at his special police officer that he didn't treat him at all? He just kept making him calm. Lin Qin is the only survivor they found. After a while, Lin Qin's body gradually recovered and reason returned. See the situation around. On the corridor outside the ward, many special police and soldiers came. They walked all the way to the top, and they didn't know what they were, and they made them so moved. For so long, Lin Qin has seen this for the first time. He wanted to go outside and stayed in the special police officer who stayed to take care of Lin Qin and stopped him and asked, "Are you okay? Are you injured?" "Military doctor, there is a survivor here. You need to check the whole body." Lin Qin just looked at the situation in the corridor, and he didn't hear the special police behind him shouting at the other side. After the military doctor came over, after the inspection of Lin Qin was correct, Lin Qin said, "What happened here? How can you be here? This team has less than 20 people. This number is not a small number." The other party did not answer. Just to appease Lin Qin said, "Sir, you first go to the ward and wait. When we complete the task, you will naturally take you back to the evacuation point." Speaking, Lin Qin was forced to pull it back, and the door of the ward was closed. What happened outside? Lin Qin was confused. He was a little anxious in the ward, but it was certain that he had no problem with his personal safety. In the ward, the lights in the bathroom are still on. The sky outside was still dark, and Lin Qin couldn't help but look at the mobile phone time in his pants pocket. 4 a.m. Most of the survivors should be rest. Lin Qin couldn't help but lie on the door. Yu read the book www.yuyukangshu.net through the transparent glass above the door of the ward. The corridor was particularly quiet. Only 2 special policemen were at the entrance of the stairs, plus the one in his room, a total of 3. The team that I saw before has been upstairs, and I don't know where to go. In short, not like coming to save people. Generally speaking, what is worthy of the hospital? Medicine? In any hospital, the types of medicines are very complete, and even various medical equipment. They act in the middle of the night, and shouldn't they go to the outpatient pharmacy, even if they take medicines? What can be in the inpatient department? Lin Qin couldn't help but puzzled. Outside, the sound of the helicopter suddenly sounded. Through the transparent windows on the 2nd floor, Lin Qin found what equipment they are transporting. Outside the hospital, the helicopter has been waiting for a long time. Wait until the things are transported away, and the people outside began to evacuate in an orderly manner. Lin Qin, the room, was also taken away by the special policeman who had been standing next to him. Lin Qin wanted to leave and pushed the special police officer to escape. The special police did not seem to think that Lin Qin's strength was so great, and he pushed directly to the ground by his push. When you want to call him again, people can only see a tail. Others in the team helped him and seemed to be the captain in the team, seeing the way. Since he doesn't want to leave, don't care. Remember our task, not to save people. Board the plane. Lin Qin couldn't hear what he said there. He only knew that he pushed the special police officer and ran out easily. No one has chased himself yet. After running for a while, Lin Qin stopped. Looking back, I saw the helicopter flying away. I depend on me. I really don't care about me. This is a bit easy to run out, so it's too outrageous. However, it was discovered that Lin Qin was just a matter of these people. He did not leave, and they didn't want to care. After all, there is no savings in the task. That's why Lin Qin ran so easy. However, Lin Qin couldn't help but pull out his mobile phone to turn on the flashlight. A touch of light lit up on the dark street. For Zhouyin's son, no half of the living people. Occasionally, you could see a few signs of swimming on the street. With physical strength, Lin Qin gradually felt a little tired. I don't know if it's the side effect of the drug obtained. Lin Qin had to find a place to avoid rest. The heartbeat jumped constantly. Lin Qin felt that he seemed to be at any time. The pain in my mind was fierce, and the limbs gradually stiff. However, it is much better than when I just injected, and my whole body is not cold. I just feel a little tired. Lin Qin entered a barbecue shop and closed the door to hide in the kitchen. After 2 hours of difficulties, the sky lit up, and Lin Qin's feeling disappeared. In exchange, the body is extremely relaxed, the ears seem to be so good, and the eyes seem to look farther. However, Lin Qin was not sure if it was his own psychological effect. It's better to find a zombie at this time. Looking around, the streets are particularly quiet. No zombie. Yesterday's scene is like dreaming. Lin Qin was worn on an unmanned street and stepped on the rotten meat on the ground. After just a few steps, a breeze was blowing and the empty mineral water bottle rolled along the edge of the road. Black. Lin Qin couldn't help but look over. Continue to go forward and look at it for 4 weeks. I left yesterday morning, and I found a place immediately. This morning, I saw it a little strange. It looks like it has come to another place. Lin Qin looked at it and couldn't help but bow his head and took out the mobile phone in the storage space. There are dozens of unsolved telephones and text messages. There are Nanwei and Zhang Shui. Yesterday did not return yesterday. It should not be urgent. However, Lin Qin did not rush to reply, but opened the map to check the route and direction. I did not notice that a mutant wild dog appeared in the shop next to him. He was staring at Lin Qin, quietly approaching. The mutant wild dogs are huge, and there are twice as many as ordinary wild dogs I met before. Optimistic about the route, and continue. As everyone knows, the mutant wild dogs directly crazy hit the glass and rushed over. When the glass was broken, Lin Qin looked back and looked at it, and saw a mutant wild dog appearing behind his side, trying to flutter him. The mutant wild dogs appeared too suddenly, scaring Lin Qin, and they were too close. Lin Qin immediately aimed at his head with a gun. The speed of the mutant wild dogs is extremely fast, and she constantly avoids Lin Qin's killing tricks. But there is no way to get closer. This made Lin Qin ease a lot and look behind him. The street is empty, but fortunately it is just one. Then there is nothing to worry about. Lin Qin was relieved, but the mutant wild dog seemed to find an opportunity to attack again. When Yu Guang rushed up, Lin Qin fired immediately, following the mutant wild dog. In the end, the mutant wild dog ran in front of him. Lin Qin swallowed, his body responded instinctively, and he slammed. I don't know if my strength has become greater or the mutant wild dogs weakened, and they just kicked it easily. He also hit another shop on the opposite side, making a collision sound. Lin Qin couldn't help looking at his hand and looked at his feet again. Is this the role of a reinforcement? enhanced its own strength. Even if the original intention of developing is to increase their attributes for animals, it is a treasure for Lin Qin. But this thing has to be observed. However, which should not be a good problem. However, this mutant wild dog is unlikely to act alone. Either there is a companion nearby, or he is greedy for the order. Lin Qin's sight looked at the shops that rushed out, and the situation inside was terrible. This thing looks like it is left to eat alone. However, Lin Qin felt that it was a mutant, but it was a zombie dog. After all, the end of the end should be the same, zombies. As for the level, he felt that it should be very different from the level of the zombies. As he said last time, the higher the level of zombies, the higher his ability. This is regardless of species. The zombies smashed into the shop, struggling for a while, and ran out again. It is higher than just the momentum. Lin Qin is not afraid of it now. Now that it is so powerful to hide from bullets, no matter how high martial arts, they are afraid of the kitchen knife. The gun in Lin Qin's hand turned into a fire axe. After the zombies approach, slammed directly against its head. A moment, it blooms directly. The thick blood and visceral meat were all over the ground. It's very disgusting. After Lin Qin resolved it, looking at the fire axe in his hand, he just wanted to lose it. However, it can continue to be used by washing the river. He carried on his shoulder, and he felt a bit heavy on weekdays that he felt that there was no weight at this time. Reading www.okanshu.net is like a small branch. It seems that the potential ability is very strong. Lin Qin nodded with satisfaction, and then continued to step on the way back to the residence. However, the body was a bit cold. Lin Qin knew this feeling is wrong. It is exactly the same as in the middle of the night yesterday. Pharmaceuticals, Wicks didn't say any medicine. Warm, chill. Isn't that warm thing or stove heating, isn't it right? And ginger tea. If you get cold, you will drink something. That's right, ginger soup. After all, it is not suffering from Fenghan to drink some ginger soup. No, the wine is okay. Warm up. Lin Qin couldn't help but speed up, took out the car, and rushed back directly. In order to avoid the occurrence of such a special police yesterday, Lin Qin felt that it was better to be his own villa. Originally, he was thinking that he didn't know the reaction and situation after the special effects was injected. And this kind of thing, Lin Qin doesn't want to let others know. So I won't choose to go back last night. But what he didn't expect was that in the early morning, it was a hospital that was angry, and he could meet the special policeman. This is just a shit. Fortunately, these people just thought he had suffered a great panic and was in chaos, and he didn't know what he injected. Fortunately, the goals of these people are not themselves. No one came to control him after running. However, the situation is wrong at the moment, and I am worried that I will meet other zombies or survivors and discover their secrets. Lin Qin felt that it was necessary to go back. As long as you hide in the basement, you will not find himself according to Zhang Shui's temperament. It didn't return overnight, and Zhang Shui in the villa was already anxious. 3 people went out yesterday, but they lost. How can this make her not anxious? The roar of the car sounded and awakened her suddenly. At this time, who will drive a car? The sound outside did not attract her attention, but the living room was still empty, and no trace of people came back. A kind of loneliness and panic continued to cover her. They may be very fierce. Such cognition made her scared. Looking at the empty villa, he immediately called the phone in his hand. Lin Qin, there should be nothing. He is so gunlier, so many weapons, and how smart is it possible? But in the phone call, no one answered over there. It has not changed yesterday. Zhang Shui was annoying and continued to call the phone. At this moment, there was a sound from outside the door, and Zhang Shui sat vigilantly from the sofa in the living room, looking outside nervously. Is this movement a zombie? She held the gun, stood up carefully, and walked to the door. If it is a zombie, she must find a way to solve it. There are 10 rounds of bullets in the gun. If it is 1 or 2, 5 or 6, it is okay to deal with it. But if there are too many quantities in the category of bullets, then she can only rely on the fire axe in the corner to give a blow. But the door is iron, and the outside sight is covered, and nothing can be seen. Everything outside can only wait. Lin Qin returned, but the chill on his body was even stronger than just now. For him, such a hot day outside, he could not play any role. As soon as the door opened, Zhang Shui, hiding behind the door, aimed at the gun. Fortunately, Lin Qin's response was very fast and hit over. The speed of the bullet seemed to be slowed in his eyes, and he could clearly see the running track. Zhang Shui saw Lin Qin and stayed in place. The gun in her hand shot twice, and she regretted it now. Fortunately, the quasi was not enough, and Lin Qin hit over. With her heart, she rushed over. "You're okay, it's okay, I just thought it was a zombie. I didn't hit you." Zhang Shui was still talking and touched Lin Qin's body nervously, but starting cold, not like normal people's body temperature. Of course, Zhang Shui in the anxiety did not notice this abnormality. Right now, she only cares about whether Lin Qin was injured by herself. Lin Qin looked at her panic and reached out and held her hand that touched her in her body. At the same time, she looked behind her and looked at the living room. "It's okay, I didn't hit me." Nan Wei didn't come back. After being affirmed, Zhang Shui was relieved. "No, aren't you together?" Yesterday, the three of them went out together, and Nan Wei should not be with him. Lin Qin pursed his lips without talking. "I just pulled Zhang Shuadao. Xiao. You didn't take a good rest yesterday. You can sleep in a room." "No need, just come back. That is Sister Nan Wei, I'll wait." The intercom seems to be beyond the range, and they can't be contacted. Lin Qin walked inside and said, "It's okay, don't care. You go back to sleep. I didn't sleep all night yesterday. I need to rest well. It happened that you also went back to rest." Nan Wei was very good. "Don't worry." Zhang Shui looked at Lin Qin's tired look, nodded with a stunned. She was really sleepy, and she didn't rest well last night. But because they were worried about them. But since Lin Qin is back, he said that. Zhang Shui's heart also put it down. She has an unconditional trust in Lin Qin. As for Nan Wei, Lin Qin said that there is no problem. It is no problem. There should be other tasks that have not been done yet. Zhang Shui watched Lin Qin on the second floor along the way and closed the door of the bedroom. Worried about the tight thoughts overnight, it also relaxed. "I couldn't help but yawn and return to my room." Lin Qin waited in the room for a while. After the bedroom next door closed the door, he walked out quietly, all the way to the basement. At this time, Lin Qin was cold. He opened the air conditioner in the basement and changed it to a hot air. At the same time, take out the small sun from the storage space and copy it back, to ensure that the next time can continue to take out the little sun next time. Then he quickly cooked a pot of hot water, and the ginger was placed inside. Of course, whether ginger tea and wine can drink together, Lin Qin can't care about it this time. While the ginger tea was still cooked, Lin Qin drank 2 large bottles of liquor in one breath. The liquor was spicy, and the stomach was like a burning. At this time, Lin Qin even felt the burning in his throat and felt numb. In the little sun in front of him, Lin Qin also opened to the largest degree. When the ginger tea was opened, Lin Qin even hesitated to drink a little bit. But after the hot tea poured out, Yu reads www.ukanshu.net. Lin Qin touched the edge of the stainless steel basin and didn't even feel hot. The chill on hand is not low. Lin Qin wrapped the blanket cooker and nestled in the audio and video room. The indoor temperature rose, but Lin Qin didn't feel hot. He stretched out his hand, and all the ginger tea that had just been poured drank his stomach, full of a large bowl. At the same time, for little son was added and grilled it in front of himself. Lin Qin felt that he was grilled in carbon. With a hot wind blowing, Lin Qin's head was a little dizzy. Baijio drinks a little bit, wrapped the quilt on his body, and under the influence of alcohol, Lin Qin fell asleep. Before sleeping, why is there a back and shaking, and I fed it several times back and forth. It won't always do that. I did not hear that wax would have such symptoms last life. The sky outside the house was bright, and Lin Qin was lying in the room and slept. The 5 small sun plus a heating air conditioner has increased the temperature of the basement. The quilt closest to the little sun also seems to have the degree of smoking. When Lin Qin woke up, the corner of the quilt had yellow hair. It will definitely get angry when baking. Lin Qin reached out and wiped the sweat on his forehead and immediately closed the little sun. Then the air conditioner was turned off again. The room was hot in the room. Suspicious, the campy said. Lin Qin lifted the quilt layer by layer, and then climbed down from the sofa bed of the audio-visual room. On the innermost layer of quilt, it has been soaked by sweat. Even his body was all sticky sweat. Lin Qin got up, opened the ventilation system in the basement, and then the vertical air conditioner outside was opened, and the temperature was adjusted to 6 degrees. Do you do everything? Lin Qin took off all the sweaty clothes on his body and entered the shower room in the basement. Take a bucket of hot water from the space and a bucket of cold water. After mixing, Lin Qin directly wiped his body with a towel to dip the water. After he came out of his refreshingness, the heat in the house was all dispersed. The temperature of the cold air conditioner of 26 degrees is not too cold, and in the slightly larger space of the basement, it has not been fully hit. With so many sweat, the alcohol in the body is estimated to have been discharged long ago. As for ginger tea, this thing seems to be able to hang over, but these are not within the scope of Lin Qin's consideration. Right now, he just feels comfortable. This feeling is different from that time in the morning. In the morning, it can only be said to be refreshing. Now it is full of comfortable, clever ears, and my body does not feel bulky, and my mind is even better. The most important thing is that he has muscles. Lin Qin couldn't help but start to show his muscles at the mirror next to the treadmill. The lines are smooth, and the abdominal muscles are so good. The lines that are tight in the muscles are tight. Even the face value seemed to have a grade. Does this stuff still have strengthened face value? However, Lin Qin's current state is normal, not those muscular men who are too extreme. Compared with fine and fine. Of course, the most important thing is that Lin Qin's physical condition is here. No matter how it is reorganized, Lin Qin appreciated his body and then took out his clothes from the space to choose it carefully. After taking a shower, his lower body was around a bath towel. Fortunately, there are a lot of clothes in the storage space, and most of them are copied when they went to the mall before. At home, Lin Qin didn't need to wear too much. Outside is a summer again. As for the dirty clothes outside yesterday, Lin Qin planned to lose it directly. After wearing a simple home service, Lin Qin glanced at the picture in the monitoring. Zhang Shui outside was still sleeping in the room. I want to come yesterday that it should not sleep overnight. Lin Qin was sitting on the chair in front of the monitoring and then took out his mobile phone to think. Nan Wei should not have any danger. Su Chang's direction of airdrops should not be far away. He gave him Nan Wei to Nan Wei. It should be faster to find him. But Lin Qin didn't know the specific situation. Otherwise, it is impossible for them not to come back today. What you will encounter. In thought, Lin Qin pressed the phone number. Now the signal is not very stable, but it is by no means completely without signal. As long as you hit a few more times, there is always a signal. However, there was a busy sound on the phone, and this situation was difficult to distinguish or something happened. Xiaoxue also said that it could not be contacted at all, exceeding the scope. His walkie-talkie was really purchased on it, and the launch range of the walkie-talkie was within 2 kilometers. But even so, Nan Wei could not run the range of 2 kilometers. Did it go to the evacuation point? Lin Qin repeatedly dialed it, and the busy sound came from the mobile phone. It seems that the phone cannot be connected. Lin Qin put his mobile phone and paralyzed on the chair. I didn't eat anything yesterday until now. Lin Qin took out a beef castle from the space and a cup of cola with ice. Of course, the most classic snack platter is indispensable. When Lin Qin had a chicken leg with his left hand and holding chicken nuggets in his right hand, Zhang Shui in the room was still sleeping. Lin Qin shook his head helplessly. Now he's always useful. But it's really cool to lie down like this. I used to have no days before. Lin Qin tore off his chicken legs, and the mobile phone on the table buzzed. Lin Qin couldn't help but look at the past, showing the word Nan Wei. Lin Qin held the chicken leg, and then connected the phone. Hey, is it Lin Qin? Nan Wei hid in a hotel. Since yesterday, she hasn't been connected to Lin Qin's call for dozens of times. This was the first call after dawn today, and she also called back after seeing Lin Qin's unacceptable call. But at this time, Nan Wei couldn't confirm whether Lin Qin was Lin Qin, but he could only ask carefully. Lin Qin bit his chicken leg a little vaguely. Through the phone, Nan Wei loosened and said, "That's good, That's good. I am away from the words." Su Chong. Speaking of this, Nan Wei's voice was a little hesitant. She lowered her head, pursed her lips again, and said, "I didn't find it. I just want to ask, do you go back? Where did Su Chong go back?" Lin Qin took another chicken leg in his mouth. "Where are you?" Compared with Su Chong and Wang Ran. In fact, what he wants to know is about Nan Wei. But looking at her, it seemed to care about those two people. Fortunately, the first thing I asked was myself. But unfortunately, Yu reads www.yuyukangsha.net. Both of them are not here. At this time, Nan Wei was still safe to hide in the hotel. The house is very large, the quilt is very clean, and at least it will not be available. However, there are many zombies wandering downstairs. The bullet in her gun was short and could not leave here. And Wang Yuan. Yesterday, they were busy looking for someone and came to the airdrop all the way, but the corpses on the ground could see how fierce the situation was when the air switch smoke rose. But they came late, and there were no survivors at all. But under a corpse near the airdrop, Su Chang's necklace was found. Don't wait for them to think about what to do. The strong, bloody smell around it attracted nearby zombies. They hurriedly fled, and under the chase of the zombies, they were dispersed. Now, she doesn't know how Wang Yuan. Su Chang's how is not clear. But in her opinion, Su Chang's great probability is more fierce. In Wang Yuan, Nan Wei felt difficult for her to survive without a weapon. But the saddest thing was not this. She contacted Zhang Shui at all yesterday. She tried to contact Lin Qin again, and no one answered. Hiding in the hotel's room, Nan Wei did not dare to make a noise. The zombies outside wandered nearby. Very dangerous. Lin Qin didn't get a reply and couldn't help asking again. "Where are you?" Nan Wei's thoughts returned, and then said, "At the Holiday Hotel." Holiday Hotel? Lin Qin couldn't help but turn on the map of the mobile phone to check it. Holiday Hotel, 2.1 kilometers. No wonder it can't be contacted, and it exceeds the range. However, Lin Qin had previously thrown in his storage space, so he didn't know whether it was Nan Wei or Zhang Shui. I just called Nan Wei a busy voice and a disconnection. It should not be seen. After all, mobile phones are mute now. Yes, the third floor of the Holiday Hotel, but there are zombies downstairs. There's an airdrop nearby, and there are many people who died there. There are many zombies. I can't go back in a short time. If the two of them are go back, please inform me. When the corpse outside is almost eaten, these zombies downstairs will be dispersed, and then I'm going back. When it comes to Wang Yuan and Su Chong, Lin Qin does not feel much. Anyway, the road is chosen by myself. After thinking about it, Lin Qin said, "What about your food?" The zombies were scattered, and they had to wait a few days. During this time, food and water are the most important. Rest assured, can I survive before, now I can. There are a lot of food in the hotel, as long as no one comes at searching. Lin Qin is not as optimistic as Nan Wei. There are indeed a lot of food in the hotel. After all, it provides breakfast. But the problem is in the event of other survivors hiding in it. In this relatively closed space, people with food and rights have the greatest right to speak. The original waiter, front desk, manager, and even the original residents of the hotel are problems, who said that there must be no one in the outbreak of zombies. Most of the first reactions are where you are closest to yourself and can hide. Of course, many people have ran out of external factors such as evacuation points and lack of food. However, there should be a lot of ingredients such as hotels, and the original residents will definitely not take risks in this environment. After all, there's zombies outside, but not safe and not food. The ingredients in the hotel are at least enough for them to be full. Therefore, don't look at the corridors of the rooms. Maybe they're hiding in the place where the kitchen has. There's the place with the most food. Nan Wei naturally thought of this. For hotels, their back kitchen is the place where food accumulates. But Lin Qin said, there should be someone in the back kitchen. You want to go in and take away their lives. The possibility is not too high. Nan Wei was silent. Lin Qin said nothing. How could such a big hotel be alone? The first to hold the group should be the original employees of the hotel. The number of food is fixed. There are so many in total. The weight of everyone's separation must be regulated. And one more person means that food should be divided out. Is it a good person or not? Human nature cannot be speculated. Nanwei couldn't help but sigh. That seems to. I can only break out. The car stopped a little far. I knew a long time ago, so I stopped here. Maybe the probability of breaking out is much greater. Going to the kitchen is like a gamble. No one knows what will happen. Lin Qin put the chicken leg back to the table, pumped a piece of paper, and wiped the fat on his belly. You just said you're on the 3rd floor. You're the restaurant downstairs. According to the setting of ordinary hotels, most restaurants are really on the 2nd floor. Nanwei is on the 3rd floor. It is to climb along the stairs. During this period, it will pass through the 2nd floor. However, the fire channel on the 2nd floor should be closed, otherwise Nanwei will definitely go. Nanwei nodded, and then found that Lin Qin couldn't see at all. Well, but the fire door is closed, and I can't get too much movement. But if I want to get food, I can only think about it. Go in. Okay, don't worry about me. Don't forget, I will still have some fists and feet. It is definitely no problem to deal with ordinary people. Nanwei pretended to be easy, but the signal is not stable. Listening to Lin Qin's ears is intermittent, but the general brain supplements. Probably the meaning is very different. At this moment, a knock sound came from outside the door. Nanwei covered the phone and looked at the door nervously. The door of the hotel was all swiping. After the electricity was not available, the door could not be locked, but Nanwei was locked from the inside. This gate becomes the only one who shuts down. But at this time, who will be knock on the door? Outside the door, there was a sound of conversation. Are you really sure that a person is here yesterday? The voice of speaking is extraordinarily small, and the tone is full of uncertainty. Soon, the sound of the outside sounded again. Obviously, this was another person. It is true. Yesterday was the night with Donnie. If you're okay, if it is a zombie, the hotels will not be fair. Damn, it's enough for these zombies. I want to see it. She has a zombie. The other sound is slightly rude. There seems to be 3 people outside, but this is just Nanwei's guess. She hid in the room and could not judge the situation outside. Nanwei nervously stuffed his mobile phone at the bottom of the bed, and even the bullets with the bullets also stuffed it in. If you let the people outside see the gun, maybe it will cause something. In short, just in case. After doing everything, then hurry up to the door to stick to the wall. If the people outside come here, they will open her room. Yu reading book www.yukangshu.net. In case it is taken away. Nanwei looked at the mobile phone under the bed. The sound of footsteps outside the house was getting closer, and listening to the sound seemed to be next door. Now open the door of the room, and the sound of the sound should be heard by them. There is no way left and right. Nanwei thought for a while. Instead of letting them break the door, it would be better to take the initiative. Maybe be able to live. Soon, footsteps came to her door, and someone held the door handle and pushed it gently. But the door was closed and couldn't push at all. Soon the other party also discovered the abnormality of this house. This door, can you lock it if you have no electricity? I do not know. No. Nanwei listened to the conversation and took a deep breath to open the gap in the door. The people outside the door were taken aback, and the knife in his hand pointed directly at the door. Who? Open. Nanwei said, Don't kill me. I am a human, not a zombie. Open the door. The people outside the door said again. Nanwei looked out through the door gap. 3 people in the clothes of chefs were also holding ordinary kitchen knives in their hands. Sure enough, what Lin Qin thought was the same. The hotel's original employees lived here. Hidden the dagger on the roots of the thighs quietly, Nanwei pretended to open the door and opened the door even more. At this time, the light outside was sufficient, and Nanwei opened the door. The light in the entire corridor is much brighter than just now. Who are you? Nanwei looked at 3 people. The white coat wearing a chef should be the hotel. The other 2 people behind him lended their loans. Black suit pants should also be the original employee of the hotel. 3 people are also looking at Nanwei. Normal short, sleeve tops and shorts. There are no bags on the whole body, and there is no position that can be hidden. The most important thing is that there is no weapon, and it's just a woman. After confirming that she was not a zombie, the three obviously relaxed their vigilance. Who are you and how are you here? Among them, the fatter tone was not very good. Nan Wei returned to God, pretending to be scared again. I live near this. I got in yesterday to hide from the zombies. The big brothers rest assured that when the zombies outside were gone, I left here and went to the evacuation point by myself. Evacuation point? What is the evacuation point? Nan Wei, dare to love? You don't know anything? The three people directly pushed Nan Wei into the room. Someone carefully looked at the situation in the corridor and closed the door. Looking at Nan Wei's fearful expression, the fat man explained. Well, I was called Fong. It was the chef of this hotel. The two on the left side were He Mi Yao, and the one who saw the door was Wang Xiao. You can rest assured, many people gather in our restaurant and wait for the three of us to take you over for a while. But were the evacuation points you just said? Isn't it to wait for rescue at home? Why is there still an evacuation point now? The news of the evacuation point is in the radio, and the large majority of people have no radio at all. During the first notice at that time, the internet, water, and electricity were normal. Everyone can see when major Weibo news reports. After all, at that time, in addition to staying at home to avoid zombies, everyone was holding a mobile phone to check all kinds of news and contact relatives and friends. There are no food, and even the same building can help each other. However, since the power is disconnected, the mobile phone has not been supplemented in time, and it has long been lost, and it has become a scrap iron. All people cannot get in touch with the outside world at this time. Without food, you can only go out to find. When you meet a zombie, you can only wait to die if you can't run away. The most important thing is that there is a rescue plan in the first release. The only hope for living people is to wait for rescue. Now, Nan Wei suddenly appeared and even said the evacuation point. What evacuation point? Isn't it hiding and waiting for the rescue of the country? Are there a lot of helicopter or something before? Rescue should be just right these days. A series of news lingering in the man's mind. Pocket with the news that Nan Wei said. Don't you know? Nan Wei pretended to be surprised and then said, Chef Fong, this is the case. The rescue is too difficult and the national refuge in the country is still under construction, so it was immediately selected as a temporary base evacuation point like this. During this time, the airport will be taken off and controlled. At that time, the personnel will be transported in batches to the airport to the major asylum. Don't you know? Nan Wei pretended to be surprised and looked at the three people. Three men are confused. You see me and I look at you. No one knows what Nan Wei said is true or false. For a moment, Fong Shi said, It's not safe here. Let's go to the restaurant on the second floor first. At that time, everyone will discuss the specifics together. The other two men nodded in a hurry. Nan Wei observed their look and did not follow the obvious attack intention behind them. However, the mobile phone was hidden under the bed, and it would not be easy to get it at this moment. I don't know if this broken signal, Lin Qin can hear their talks just now. Will you come to yourself? The restaurant on the second floor is very large. Everyone is nestled on their seats, and there are blankets next to them. It seems that during this time, these people were lying on the bench of the restaurant to rest. Roughly, there are almost 20 people hiding here. The door outside was pushed away, and the people inside were nervous for a moment. But after seeing acquaintances, everyone was relieved. Old Fong, don't you go out to check what the situation is? How can you bring it back to a drag bottle? The man who speaks is very young, but the words are not polite. In his opinion, so many people here have been supported by the original food of the hotel for a few days. This inspection was not found out, but a woman who consumed food was brought back. Isn't it a drag bottle? That's how a woman can do. What can a woman do? And when they meet a zombie, they will only hide behind and yell, and they will not attract more zombies. There are enough women here, come on. Come on. Old Fong, when is this all? Can you collect your kindness? The crowd spoke eloquent, but everyone's voice is as low as possible, so as not to let the static too much. Nan Wei stood at the end and looked at everything here. Except for the personnel, the women, children, and old people here are almost 8 people. The proportion accounts for most. Everyone expressed dissatisfaction with Nan Wei, who suddenly appeared. Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net. Feng Shi raised his hand and pressed the complaints of everyone. Don't be noisy. This time it brought in important news. The sound in the restaurant gradually classified as calm, and everyone was waiting for what it was. Feng Shi continued. This little girl said that the method of rescue changed. We need to go to the evacuation point by ourselves. This address, you know. He turned his head and looked at Nan Wei. Seeing Nan Wei nodded, he said again, This news is not a good news. Just want to ask everyone what everyone thinks. The people here are hiding here from the early stage of the zombie, and no one has gone out. Looking down from the glass window on the second floor, you can see the tragic situation on the street. Even so, everyone knows what's going out. Fortunately, there are a lot of fast food products in the hotel, which is enough to support this time. However, inventory is about to be short. Is this news reliable? The previous Weibo news didn't say so. That's it. Will it lie to us? There's so many zombies outside, and you have to evacuate yourself. Isn't this a death? Isn't it rescue a few days ago? Our guys have seen helicopters. That's it. You can hear the sound of the explosion in the past few days. We also saw a few special police fighting with zombies. That's it. Nan Wei looked at the crowd and couldn't help but smoke the corner of his mouth. If it is so easy to evacuate, it has long been evacuated. How could it be hiding here at this time? However, these people have a fixed idea. Since I don't believe myself, there is no way. Feng Shi raised his hand to signal quiet, and then looked at Nan Wei, said next to the side, Do you have any evidence to prove that it is true to go to the evacuation point by yourself? Nan Wei, No. The news is in the radio. Do she have a radio and how to prove it? No. But if you have a radio, you can open the radio and listen to it. However, she didn't finish it all, and someone immediately refuted. No evidence. What are you talking about? That is, isn't this intentionally panic everyone? Roll out. We don't have a white food here for you. Snapped. On Lin Qin's head, he lost a cup. The cup fell on the ground, and there was a broken crack. For a while, the abuse of everyone stopped. Deadly silent. After everyone reacted, he immediately began to escape into the kitchen. Even Feng Shi was scared forward to check whether the door of the restaurant was closed tightly, and then pulled Nan Wei to hide. Don't underestimate this sound. The ears of the zombies are extremely sensitive. If there's zombies inside the building or below their window, it will be attracted. The crowd waited nervously for a while, and was relieved after seeing that there was no sound outside. Feng Shi turned around, looked at the hidden people, and scolded. Who is it just now? Damn, I don't know if you can't make a sound. Do you dare to throw a cup? Do you have to kill everyone in this house? No one in the hiding people spoke. When Feng Shi saw this, he sighed fiercely. It seems that you can't stand here for a long time. You have to find a way to go out. And food, there are not many. It is not a thing to be trapped here. He couldn't help looking at Nan Wei next to him, and saw that her forehead was smashed out of the drum, and couldn't help but say, Who would you like to go and see the situation outside the zombies? If there is no problem, everyone will leave here and go to the evacuation point. However, you look at me in a house. I look at you. No one speaks. When Feng Shi saw this, he didn't fight in one place. Since you don't want to go, you will die here. There is the last meal left. No matter what you want to go out. Who wants to go out to check the situation? If it is safe, come back to report. Feng Shi looked at the person in a room, and everyone drew his head. They're on the second floor and can see the situation downstairs. It is not difficult to guess that the tragic situation downstairs made everyone fear a lot. But there must be someone to go down to explore the way. Food is about to be exhausted. It is a big crisis. After eating, even if you don't want to go out, you have to go out. And Nan Wei, she knew where the evacuation point was and naturally could not take her adventure. In this way, you can only choose from this group of delicious and lazy tenants. In the corner, 2 men raised their hands. We can go. Feng Shi's face was much better. If someone goes, You can know the current situation outside. Be safe. The two nodded in a hurry, then entered the kitchen room, and then came to the rear. The kitchen has a back kitchen channel, but the stairs next to the guest ladder do not have to be walked. The two looked at each other, and under the eyes of everyone, they left from the exclusive employee channel of the back kitchen. When the door of the room closed, the two men glanced at each other. The fool stayed, and I didn't eat anymore. I didn't run quickly. That's it, but where are we going next? It is estimated that the food outside is very difficult to find. By the way, do we still come back to report the letter? What letter is reported? There's zombies outside. You can't come back if you hide. Don't worry. I have stolen a few packs of instant noodles. Today's meal is definitely no problem. Also, you have to be your brother. That's not necessary. Two people carefully walked behind the hotel along the employee passage. Finally came to the first floor. However, the door of the employee passage is relatively small, and the door is locked from the inside. The two did not leave here immediately, but listened to the sound outside, carefully lying on the door. The outside is quiet and there is no sound. After listening for a while, the two talents opened the gap between the door and looked outside quietly. It is extremely silent outside, and everything seems to be normal. Even the zombies that everyone saw yesterday did not have one at this time. The two sewed the door even bigger and then went out. The outside is empty and the surroundings are very quiet. Except for some traces on the ground, no other unusual places were found. Here, the situation before the zombies broke out. When the two saw the turn, they continued to go out, and they did not notice that the danger could happen at any time. The people in the back kitchen were anxiously waiting for the audio. I didn't know the two people who went out, stealing their food and not to say, and did not plan to come back. The entire restaurant is very quiet. At this time, the zombies also quietly groped. Nanwei heard the movement. The crowd who was still whispering in the house stopped. He and Fong Shi quietly leaned to the restaurant hall outside. Outside, there were a few slight collisions. It seemed that the zombies hit the door. But the door of the restaurant is the kind of slightly thick. Yu reads www.yuukangshu.net and has no window. I can't see the outside situation at all. Nanwei and Fong Shi looked at each other and then walked quietly to the door. She took off her shoes and stepped on the floor brick barefoot and would not make a loud noise. After coming to the door, he quietly stuck to the door and listened to the outside. The outside is quiet, but the rotten taste is very strong. Nanwei couldn't confirm whether the zombies were outside. Just then, a bang sounded. The zombies hit the door sharply. Nanwei, who was sticking to the door, was startled. Suddenly pulled away his body. When I saw it in the restaurant to take the dining area, I couldn't help but hold the knife in my hand. Once the zombies are signs of rushing in, the knife in his hand is his best body defense weapon. Nanwei covered his mouth, but fortunately he did not make a sound even if he was scared. During this period of time, she's been able to achieve a sudden change in the sudden change. If it was before, she would definitely call her mother. Fortunately, this period of time can be regarded as 100 battles, although it is not enough to know the zombies. But it is definitely half of the understanding. At least, more than others in this room know more. Anyway, she also fought dead with the zombies. Calm down, Nanwei thought. The zombies outside should be attracted by the sound of the crushing of the quilt. But quietly and quietly, they couldn't confirm how many of them were across the door. However, there are not many foods in the kitchen. Obviously, you can't stay here for too long, and you need to leave as soon as possible. Covering his chest, Nanwei waited nervously across the door. The zombies outside did not move further. When Nanwei returned to Fong's side, he put the taken-off shoes again, said with Fong Shi, and returned to the kitchen again. The person in the house looked at the two people. Some people wanted to speak, but they saw the two people side immediately after signing a quiet action. What this means, everyone is very clear. The crowd moved inside carefully, and after a while, there was no sound outside the door. Fong Shi Dao, there are zombies outside. It should be unable to go from the main entrance. The two can only wait for the two to report to the letter to see what the back door is. Wang Ru, wait for you to take the knives in the kitchen, shovel, or something, everyone takes a defense. Nan Wei squatted aside and couldn't help asking, "Did you find us here before? Why are you trapped here for so long?" Feng Shi shook his head helplessly. "No, if so, who will have left? Who is still in this place? When we were in a mess outside, we were on duty. When I found something wrong, the residents in the hotel ran, most of them early. There was a pot of porridge outside, and a few people ran into our lobby to hide behind. But even so, the manager did not let us close, and then the situation was closed when the situation was out of control. But even so, the manager him died under the mouth of the zombies. But fortunately, the day before the kitchen just purchased all food and daily necessities. This can keep these people here to the present. Right now, only you know the location of the evacuation point. Can you lead us to the evacuation point?" Feng Shi's eyes suddenly looked at Nan Wei. In his eyes, Nan Wei is very important. This girl can live outside the present, and it is still a bit capable. They have limited contact with zombies, and they're definitely not as experienced as she. Nan Wei squatted aside and looked at everyone's eyes gathered here. Some embarrassment. The location is in the gymnasium, you should know. It is not difficult to find. I still have friends here. We are scattered, and I have to find them. Feng Shi looked at Nan Wei and silently. "Little girl, don't blame me to pour cold water. Your friend is probably more fierce. It's better to leave with us." Nan Wei was still hesitating. Even though she was so fierce with Su Chong, she still had Lin Qin. The mobile phone was thrown on the bottom of the bed on the 3rd floor. At that time, it was to prevent being searched, and there was no tool for contacting Lin Qin now. In the face of this choice, she hesitated. The zombies outside were still continuing. Several people were afraid to pant, but dared to make a whisper. Such a conversation has passed for nearly half an hour. The 2 people who went out have not yet come back. Everyone couldn't help but anxious. Is it more fierce? But isn't the zombies hovering in the front door? The position of the back door is remote, and there should be no zombies. Wang Ru, who was distributed after the weapon, squatted beside Feng Shi, whose words were whispered. "Older, those 2 people have been out for half an hour, and it should be coming back." Feng Shi thought carefully, and then nodded. "It's almost time to come back, and get your own weapons. When they come back, we will discuss the evacuation countermeasures according to the situation outside. The most lacking kitchen is the knife. Everyone gets a defense. After all, when the evacuation, the zombies outside are definitely not a minority. Naturally, it is inevitable to fight. The difference between a knife and no knife is still quite large." Wang Ru nodded. "Now you can only wait." But everyone waited for a long time, and no one came back. Nan Wei felt that she should not be able to return. Feng Shi also gradually had a bad hunch at this time. "Lao Feng, why don't they come back yet? I'm afraid I can't come back. This is a bit heavy, but it is also the most likely thing at present. In a heavy atmosphere, grunting and breaking this atmosphere." Feng Shi's emotions rushed into his heart instantly, looking at Nan Wei, who was embarrassed next to him. She didn't eat it all night and one morning. This time is not too early. "Wang Ru, let's take out the bread instant noodles inside to everyone." "Good." Wang Ru got up and ran to the storage room behind the kitchen. After a while, Wang Ru hurried back and looked nervous. "It's not good. The instant noodles are 6 packs less. I have clearly counted in the morning." This news shocked everyone. After all, the food in it was only 1 day, and it was 6 packs even less. "How can you remember you clearly? Of course, these are one of the few foods. How can I remember wrong? Someone must have taken it secretly." Feng Shi's gaze is slightly over the kitchen, everyone. Someone's stolen. It means that there are people who are inconsistent with them. For those who are uneven, even if you read the book www.yiyukangshu.net, even if you go out, you will kill everyone in order to protect your life. However, everyone is unknown. Until a girl in the corner raised her hand. I saw the 2 out of the time. One of them went to the storage room. She was a little timid to speak, and when everyone looked at her, her voice gradually weakened. Feng Shi sighed, and then said, "Go first, Nympho." And at this time, the sound of the phone was gradually drifting away, and Lin Qin was quiet for a long time without hearing any big movement there, and he simply hung up the phone in his hand. Nan Wei seemed to be voluntarily taken away. The situation should not be critical. Lin Qin was a little relieved. But looking at the monitoring, there were several zombies on the street, wandering aimlessly. For Lin Qin at this time, with a few waves of uncomfortable treatment, he just wants to take a good rest now. After all, cold and hot are just non-human torture, and time is still uncertain. After using a reinforcement agent, this is the third wave. Lin Qin himself could not be sure if there was still the fourth wave, the fifth wave. When he takes a rest and observes to make sure that his body has no abnormalities, it is the most secure when going out. In Nan Wei, compared with his safety, Lin Qin feels that it is not so important. The premise of saving her is to be carried out without abnormalities in her body. He is not stupid. Lin Qin took a deep breath and then lay down to rest. After a while, he had to go back to change his clothes. Zhang Shui, who had not slept overnight, fell asleep until about 1 p.m. before waking up. In the room, Lin Qin was not found. She was stunned at first, doubting whether she dreamed in the morning. As a result, when he turned around, he saw Lin Qin behind him. Zhang Shui was startled. Lin Qin looked at her dumb and took a sip of water. "What is your expression?" Zhang Shui condensed. "Do you have no sound for you?" Lin Qin was puzzled for a moment. He obviously came to the same as usual. How could there be no sound? You don't pay attention yourself. With a sip of water, Lin Qin didn't care. Zhang Shui patted her chest and looked at Lin Qin weirdly. Then he whispered, "How is it possible? How can this house be so quiet, and how can you hear it?" After muttering for a while, she looked at Lin Qin again. "I always feel that he is not the same as before. Whereas the specific is not easy to say. Emotional chi? Body type? Outside? It seems a bit, and there seems to be no. In short, the weird to say." Lin Qin finished the water and returned to his room and changed his clothes. Zhang Shui, who had returned to God, suddenly remembered the situation of Nan Wei and the other two. They went out together, but only Lin Qin came back. Shouldn't it be a big trouble? In the morning, Lin Qin just asked a few words in a hurry, didn't ask much, and did not show any great emotional changes. So how to speak? He scratched his hair, and Zhang Shui watched the empty staircase and initiated. When Lin Qin came down, there was no perception. Looking at Zhang Shui, who was dazed, Lin Qin raised his sleeves. "What are you doing? How strange." Zhang Shui returned to God and looked at him dumbfounded, then said, "They will not die anymore." Lin Qin raised his eyebrows. "Even if you die, what does it have to do with you? You look like you're going to die. If you don't know what you think is something wrong with your brother." Zhang Shui shook her head seriously. No, different. Anyway, it's a teammate together. Care about what happened. Besides, don't you say that my brother is okay. Eat or drink and live very well. Lin Qin laughed. "I can't see that you care about them. I didn't see it on weekdays. No, I only care about Sister Nan Wei. Her friends are not good at all, selfish. Especially Wang Yuan. I always feel that she is still a big star, and there is poo every day. I don't like her. Su Chang. I haven't been in contact with it. I don't know what to do. This is that Sister Nan Wei is more normal. I know gratitude, and people are very modest." Zhang Shui thought carefully. From the perspective of getting along on weekdays, Nan Wei understands the comfort of getting along with others. And Wang Yuan has no sense of boundary. Lin Qin smiled slightly. Girls are really contradictory complexes. However, Wang Yinran followed Su Chang, and the possibility of fierce is more likely. Su Chanka went to the airdrop, and there were not a few people over there. If he wants to grab, the probability of being ambushed is extremely large. And Wang Yuan, observed in the past few days, Lin Qin felt that she was a simple woman, and even her limbs were not developed. It was estimated that Su Chang and Wang Zihao had died long ago. In Nan Wei, personal ability, the probability of survival is high. Especially in the morning, I just contacted myself. "Have you been eating? Hungry, what do you want to eat?" Lin Qin didn't talk. Instead, I touched my belly. Now, very hungry. It feels like the next pig. Zhang Shui suddenly turned around, and her stomach groaned. She was worried that she had not slept overnight, and she didn't eat. At this moment, Lin Qin said, hungry directly. Ah, it's okay, let me see what you eat. Zhang Shui was embarrassed. Seeing this, Lin Qin said, no, eat ready-made. Talking about Lin Qin, he washed his face and then walked towards the dining table. Zhang Shui has always been ignorant of the food that Lin Qin said. What to eat? How did he come? After a while, there were a few home-cooked dishes on the table, and it was hot. 2 bowls of rice. The two swept away silently. The mobile phone in the pants pocket buzzed. Lin Qin lowered his head and turned on the phone. A text message sent over. Lin Qin, save me. This information is inexplicable. Lin Qin specially looked at the sender, but it turned out to be Zhang Jian. The recent signal is not very good. The text message is delayed. Lin Qin could not judge when Zhang Jian sent him information from the information. Just after seeing this information, he immediately called back. However, it can't be connected at all. Lin Qin glanced at Zhang Shui, who was still eating, then got up directly and returned to the room. Try to continue contact, but it can't be connected at all. The side of the phone is prompted to shut down. Zhang Jian can be said to be unable to get in touch at all. Lin Qin could not find Zhang Shui. In the living room, Zhang Shui was cleaning the dish. Lin Qin hesitated and then decided not to tell her. Zhang Jian's help SMS suddenly came, and Zhang Shui himself had no ability. Yu reading book www.yuukangshu.net. It's better to stay here. If he tells her, maybe what kind of moths are going to. It was her brother, and she would definitely be anxious, and it was useless to tell her. There are too many things recently. It is better to have more things. The surroundings of their villas also met 2 mutant zombies yesterday. They're all zombies on the road outside. If you go to the place where Zhang Jian lives, you usually take a 40-minute journey by taking the subway. Not to mention now, it is longer for walking, and it may not be completely safe when driving. Zhang Jian is his own good brother. He prepared sufficient food and water for him, as long as he stayed at home and waited for rescue. Recently, it is the tense moment of rescue. Although it was changed to go to the shelter by itself, Zhang Jian's position was very close to the evacuation point. Why shouldn't he ask him for help? In other words, this text message was not sent by Zhang Jian. If this is the case, the situation may be even more serious. However, everything can only ensure whether Zhang Jian is still waiting at home to rescue, or he went to the evacuation point. And at this time, Zhang Jian's gymnasium evacuated point. Children's crying, crowd's conversation, evacuated radio, and other sounds are noisy and mixed together. Crowd crowded. Both men and women, children and children, all the open-air venues in the gymnasium are full. Around the gymnasium, there were a lot of military soldiers standing, and they looked at the situation outside the wall vigilantly. Once they find nearby zombies, they will solve it directly. A circle of stadiums accumulated a lot of zombies. Inside the crowd, there are also many special police officers to help maintain order. But even so, the progress of the evacuation has not yet begun. Many people still have a grudge. The broadcast on the top of the head is constantly broadcasting. The evacuation is still continuing. Please queue in an orderly manner. Maintain a good order and sanitary environment, and patiently wait for the time for the next evacuation of the aircraft. Thank you for your cooperation. But even if the broadcast is so broadcast, the sound is not loud in the noisy crowd. The crowd is still discussing. There are too many survivors in the gymnasium, and each helicopter cannot take a few people at all. In addition, the plane over the airport is not a lot of planes waiting for evacuation. The number of aircraft is limited. Personnel resettlement is only changed from the gymnasium to the airport. Zhang Jian stood in the crowd. He came to the evacuation point from yesterday and waited until today. Huang Ying, the beauty of her peers, frowned and asked nervously, "What to do? I have waited for 2 days, and there is no turn yet. There should be a lot of zombies outside the wall. In case of breaking in, we all have to finish." Zhang Jian was also anxious, but he had no other way. After all, when he came here, everything could only obey the command. Don't worry, there are so many people here. You can only pull a few people at a time. The time is a bit longer, but it will always be us. Huang Ying looked at the long team. It seems that we'll be inseparable from here. But have you heard other people's discussions? At present, there is no refuge, and I don't know where this plane has pulled us one trip. But I heard that it was placed at the airport. I didn't know if it was true or not. Huang Ying muttered next to Zhang Jian. Fortunately, there are electric facilities here. Zhang Jian looked down, and he felt a little heavy. This is just more than 20 days. The zombies at the airport are still possible, and the refuge will definitely not be built so fast. I just don't know if it's safe there. The airport's week was stopped by ordinary iron nets. Can you resist the zombies around you? The helicopter flew in and out every day. This sounded naturally a lot of zombies. 1 week of the airport, many zombies were absolutely gathered. If the zombies break through the iron net, the entire airport is not safe. But the airport is definitely larger than the gymnasium, where more citizens can be placed and more seats can be placed. It is also the first choice for resettlement points, and the location is more remote. Zhang Jian looked down at his mobile phone. After the electricity was broken, the power of the charging treasure had been used up. The mobile phone is now a scrap iron. If you can find a place to charging, let Zhang Shui call Zhang Shui first and get angry with Lin Qin to let them come to the evacuation point. In this way, everyone can get together and live together. However, all people are all people. Where's the charging place? Zhang Jian's eyes couldn't help but look at the gymnasium. There is always a place where there is a charging place, right? The bustling crowd was booming, and Zhang Jian opened the crowd to walk into the venue. Hey, where are you going? Don't you line up? Huang Ying found Zhang Jian's move and could only shout loudly. However, there are sounds around, and Zhang Yi is like hearing it all, and soon disappears in the crowd. The people who lined up, waiting for the arrival of the helicopter, would not let the road at all. Neuropathy is almost gone. Huang Ying cursed a few words and continued to line up her team. She and Zhang Jian were originally a bed companion halfway. The only bundle was probably Zhang Jian's food. To follow the evacuation point is more attractive. The evacuation point is now, and naturally he does not matter if he is. Huang Ying would not give up like him, and didn't know where to go. At this time, Zhang Jian kept walking in the crowded crowd. Finally came to where the most marginal personnel were scarce. He stood on the outside and looked around. Finally, I saw a tent where the food and water were placed, and there was a plug and board. Zhang Jian was sitting on the little horse behind the food distribution point, waiting for the charging, waiting anxiously. Food and water are put into boxes, and Zhang Jian's figure can be completely blocked. Don't worry about being discovered by the person in charge at all. It is not a big deal to charge itself. Soon, the powerless mobile phone rushed to 10%. The crowd noisy sound is even more obvious. The helicopter in the distance flew over slowly, and everyone seemed to see the hope of evacuation and discussed madly. The noisy sound is getting louder. The sound in the broadcast continues. Zhang Jian glanced at the charging progress of the mobile phone, 20%. Not enough. It didn't take long for this to be gone. The crowd looked at the increasingly closer helicopter and relaxed a lot. Some people eat food and drink water and emotionally eased a lot. Suddenly, the crowd surged. The screams came one after another. Zhang Jian looked up sharply. Seeing that the original team was neatly arranged, it began to riot. The people inside are screaming, and the people outside are unknown. Until more and more people squeezed out, UU Redbook's www.ukinsha.net, and even the special police officers responsible for maintaining order to maintain their weapons. Zhang Jian realized the seriousness of the matter. Some people have mutated into zombies. By people over there. The zombies spread very fast, and many people were bitten. And some people who are not too ruthless after being bitten, mutations are just things sooner or later. Then the gymnasium is so big, there are many people. Zombies are very fast, and many people have begun to scatter. Zhang Jian stood at the most peripheral food distribution point to see the crazy people inside. You can even see the special police inside constantly shot. Some people were just caught a little bit, and they were shot all of them.